All right, y'all. Welcome to For the Artists, a podcast brought to you by Creative M Projects. I'm your host, Melissa Sharee, with Grammy Award-winning producer Eric Seats. What's good, Seats?
You got it. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm
I
doing
love
well.
your mood right now and the ambiance. And
The obvious, you know what?
real
It's not Wednesday. I'll be like, it's Rap Wednesday, but it's Rap Thursday.
nice.
This is a little trick. I mean, when you don't feel like doing your hair, you
Hmm.
just throw on a wrap.
Yeah, and it's
Automatic elegance.
correct. Correct.
So you know what? I really hope we gonna find out after I'm done and I get ready to upload this. But I really hope that I have solved the sound problem once and for all.
You already have thus far.
Because I'm tired of sounding like a truck driver or like a little mouse in the corner where every now and then you're like, wait, what'd you say? What'd you say? I'm
Trial and
surprised
error.
nobody's complained. We got
That's
some
a good
good
thing.
people. Nobody has said anything. They have just listened.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. So we're kicking off March, y'all. We
Mhm.
had features all throughout February, but now it's just your faithful host. Not just, it's your faithful host here,
Mhm.
rocking a new conversation. We're going to talk about discouragement and what
Mhm.
we do when we're discouraged. Now, listen, I intentionally chose discouragement, not depression. You know why, Seats?
Why?
Because discouragement can lead to depression. So we trying to get to a conversation where
Uh,
we discuss, so we can catch some things before they
oh,
actually get to that kind of deeper end.
right, right, right.
I looked up a couple things.
Uh-huh.
So, but before we even go there, what's your personal definition of discouragement? Do you got one?
Um, and that sounds like such a defeated words. And one thing about me, and you know this, but you that don't know, I'm careful with my choice of words because a lot of things we speak into our lives and we speak into existence. So I kind of monitor and I really kind of make sure I eliminate defeated terms. Doesn't mean that it's that's just me. I'm not saying that if we're in that stage that you're wrong, because none of us are exempt from getting there. And that's different times and different periods or whatever that may be. But my personal definition is maybe just let down a little bit. Not just everything is over and done with. There's still recovery. I would rather choose, I like focusing in on the recovery a lot. All the time, really, because at the end of the day, that's going to help us to, bounce back. And I like what you just said before we get to depression,
Mm-hmm.
intercept that, you don't have to go all the way down. Um,
Right.
yeah. Does that make
Well,
sense?
yeah. That makes sense. And you know what? Appreciate that you just said that because as we have our conversation is not going to be heavily, what is discouragement? Not, it's going to be more so of, okay, we're going to identify discouragement, talk a little bit about it, give some personal experiences with it, but we're going to focus more on the how do we get out of it because I mean, we can talk all day long. Everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what discouragement is, what it feels like, what it looks like. We're going to try to articulate it, but we want to spend more time on the what to do or what we do because I'm sure there's some things that we already do having lived some. So we just want to share and talk about that.
I love that.
I did go ahead, you got something?
I was just going to ask you that same exact question that you asked me to be,
Mm,
to be balanced out here.
I like it. I like it. Shoot, my personal definition. Now you know I ain't Webster's, but
Mine was not
but
Webster. And that's the first thing I thought about when you asked me. I was like, I was trying to think of the real definition, but it escapes me right now. But you know what I mean, just like I did.
right, but I had to ask the question.
Uh-huh.
So my personal definition of discouragement would be really you just get to a place where you have no courage to move forward. I
Mm.
mean, for that would be my simple definition. I mean, there's such a heaviness about you, right? It's like a hopelessness. right? You have trouble seeing beyond because you don't really have any, you're having a hard time seeing or having any hope. And you just discouraged,
Hmm.
you just can't, you just hung up on some things, whatever the pressures are, the problems. So,
Yeah.
um,
Good one.
but basically, when I looked it up, okay, you're
Hmm.
deprived of confidence, you're disheartened, you have a lack of hope or spirit, you're afflicted. And there's three different stages of discouragement, which that was new to me because I never heard about that.
Neither till just now.
But the three stages, you can either be mildly discouraged, you can be strongly discouraged, or you can be disabled. Like, there's a disabled discouragement. I guess that's probably right there with depression or right before it.
It seems like everything has tiers and different levels of it. Um, and I guess we'll all handle different things differently.
Mm-hmm.
I would, here's very general and may be too vague to say, but just try to counter whatever that discouragement is with another sort of thing that does give you hope. And maybe not put all the energy into the whatever's being discouraging, and place some of that energy or hope into something that rejuvenates you. We all need that gasoline to get to the next destination. So countering it a lot of times too will help heal that, or help at least distract you from focusing and putting all the energy and attention onto the discouraging entity.
Or whatever it is that's discouraging you.
Yeah, and I was trying to think of something personal, but that's too many things.
We have listen, we have to think of something personal. We gotta go there.
I,
You want me
I
to
would
go?
say, and here's what's, what, Melissa, and you, I know you can relate. Sometimes what we want or want it to happen, just because we want it doesn't mean that the results would have ended up thinking, would have been what we dreamed it to be. Um, and so sometimes when I have felt discouraged, I'm trying to break it down without, um, you don't want to say names, so I'll keep it maybe as okay, getting into a certain school. I'll keep it like that scenario.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
but because there's been a couple of situations you're like, how come, and you just wonder, you wonder why your credentials are there and it didn't happen. And someone else is picked, or a group was picked, whatever that case may be. For and I guess what's to be fair, what's in my head, I'm thinking about different scholarships at the time, even leaving Loxa, you
Mm.
know. But no, but that doesn't even, what sounds so old school right now is this, because what's afforded now is there's everything under the sun to get a scholarship for,
Mm-hmm.
any and everything. There's a scholarship waiting for it. So I guess times have changed. But personally, that I remember thinking not making it into a certain institution that I felt like I could have been involved with or should have been involved with in my heart, or expectations, or just a dream. Um, but a lot of times when we get older, I'm like, I'm glad it didn't work out like that, because a lot of things wouldn't have unfolded like they have,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm okay with what's going on. How about you?
Well, you know what? Since you brought up the school topic, I'm going to talk about something deeper. But before we go there, since you brought up the school topic, leaving Loxa, I think I was a bit discouraged because I was not really sure what the
Mhm.
heck I was gonna do. Like I spent
Uh,
basically since childhood, I had focused all of my energy, all of my passion on the industry and the arts. And then by the time we were graduating from high school, I didn't get into I don't even think I applied to a school that was concentrated around the arts. I
right.
was just like, I'm trying to get out of Cali. I'm trying to get out of home. I'm trying to be free. I really wanted to go to UCLA,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, dang, I felt like so many people from our school got in, and I was like, but I didn't. And I was like, why didn't I get in? Like, am I not just as talented as them? I know their grades might have been a little bit more, higher, better, whatever than mine, but I was still like an above average student,
Mhm,
3 point something, whatever.
mhm,
Anywho, but like you said, I'm glad that things kind of shook out the way they did because I ended up going back east,
mhm,
and the experiences that I had back east, I would not have had
mhm.
if I would have been accepted into UCLA and stayed home.
Correct.
So you're right. It's like that there sometimes we have in our mind the way that we think we want things to go or the way we think things should go. We get
Mhm,
discouraged when that doesn't happen, right? And then we just we respond accordingly depending on where we are. But I feel
yeah,
like the more we grow and the more we mature, I guess I'll say the easier it is for us to accept some of those things that don't go the way we want them to. And we just pull up on our faith and we're like, okay, whew, that didn't happen the way I wanted it to, but I'm gonna trust God. I'm gonna believe that it's all gonna work out, and I'm not going to give up, and I'm not going to lose hope, and let's see what's going to happen because what I wanted to happen is not happening.
I've learned how to multitask. That way, that to stay on the topic of discouraged, that way you don't feel so discouraged because if you put all your eggs in one basket, that and if it doesn't unfold as you think it should, that's a with nowhere to go. That's where we could get to that bridge called depression.
Mhm.
And so, and here I am still trying to think of scenarios without being obvious about things, but
What about giving some people away or things?
yeah. But really, like I said, just multitasking, and I'm like, okay, but I won't give up. I'll revisit if I feel the need to.
Mhm.
Um, but until further notice, I'm gonna let me apply some energy here. Let me apply some energy there, and because there's other dreams, I don't just have one dream or one. I don't want to make dreams sound so just certain expectations and things that you want to make happen. And like you said earlier, just getting the older we become, you know, bless that,
Mhm.
we're able to see how we can maneuver and do different the next time around and not repeat how it once felt.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that's something that you do to navigate or kind of ward off discouragement is having your hand in multiple things,
Mhm.
having like I can't, for lack of a better term, people say have a plan A, have a plan B. It's almost like you have all these different plans, but
Yeah.
not to say that one is lesser than the other. You're just doing multiple plans at one time. And even with my school example,
Hmm.
obviously UCLA was like up there. It was one of my top schools I wanted to go to, but I didn't just like you said all my eggs in one basket. That wasn't the only school I applied to. You know what I
Right.
mean? I had other ideas of places where I would consider
Hmm.
going if what I really wanted. So it's similar to what you're saying. It's like having all these different options to help you
Hmm.
not be so discouraged when that one thing that you really are setting your heart and mind on doesn't play out. It's like you still have some other things brewing.
You know what's funny? Just staying on that little school topic, I was accepted into multiple schools, but they weren't the ones I wanted to go to. And that's when I look back, I'm like, it was still a blessing to be accepted, all those acceptance letters, but you just want to be at a certain location or a certain place. And we get discouraged because of our hopes,
Mhm.
not appreciating the very thing that was afforded to us. Then like, no, here, come here, come here, come here. So, but I was happy that I went to Cal Arts um, by Disney. So it was, it worked out. It was tight. Um,
That's crazy to hear you say that because I always thought you wanted to be I thought that's where you wanted to go. I didn't know that you had any other. I was like, yes, he
no,
went to Cal
because
Arts, he's doing it.
What you just said, I wanted to leave the state. I wanted to get away from home.
That's what I wanted to do.
I think that's what
And
every
I
kid
did.
wants to do. So you went all the way east,
As far as I could go. Love
and
you,
I
mama.
was, and I was only across the street from Magic Mountain. That wasn't far enough for me.
Oh my gosh. You know what I was thinking about earlier though? Because
What?
I felt like I was trying to say it was unique to artists, but it may not be. But you know what make everything unique to artists because that's who we speak to. But I
Right.
was like, when it comes to discouragement, okay, it's like you have the discouragement that comes from the dreams and the visions, right? That you have that you're pursuing that either aren't happening as quickly as you want them to happen, or they're just not happening like at all, to be honest, right?
You know what? The older I've gotten, the more I realize who was I waiting to validate me to get into those arenas. And a lot of times it's really just this idea of the approach that we have embedded in us, or or maybe you read your favorite producer's book, and and what stuck with you and resonated with you is how that happened for him. And so you probably indirectly apply it to, like, okay, I have to have these meetings, I guess. I gotta walk up and down this boulevard like they did. You know what I mean? And just not even realizing that, oh, you know, not saying that what they did was in vain, but they went through that already. So like figure out a what's the next best way to do that without just always trying to be like, oh, it needs to happen like that. So, and I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of thinking I really just had this fascination or idea of what the process would look like or should look like to call
Mhm.
it successful, not realizing that I was always around people that I could have been getting it done with. But I guess we're all waiting for somebody that makes more money, somebody that is at a higher status, somebody that works here. We're always waiting for some kind of other realm of validity. And then I'm looking back like I could have been doing this myself, you know? But now when we get older, I see like I will do it. I will take the necessary procedures it takes to get to whatever I was impressed with initially about that individual.
Mhm.
And if I don't, then what am I getting older for?
Yeah. So I was gonna say, so we have the discouragement that's associated with our dream and our vision, right? But then we also have the discouragement that comes from just personal experiences, everyday life outside of that. So it's almost like, two different realms or two different worlds happening or colliding at the same time sometimes. So
Yeah.
I'll give you a personal example. So um of a very discouraging time for me. So I was actually in the process of going through a divorce. Well, I didn't know it was going to end up in a divorce. I was separated and I was, hopeful that things would be able to work out, we'd be able to come together, whatever, whatever. And at that time it just seemed like everything was just falling apart. Like I had no place to really live. I was trying to make a transition or adjustment into working for myself and starting this organization. And I ended up having to move back into the house with my parents as a grown adult, right? And at the same time, I had also started writing an EP, and I was working on doing some things musically, and it just seemed like things just were not coming together. Like because I wasn't working, right? I didn't have the money to invest that I wanted to into getting the EP project done, and it was just everything was discouraging. It was really difficult to have hope in that situation, because I mean those are like everyday essentials, right? When you think about everyday essentials that you're struggling to just put food on the table. When I say put food on the table, basically that put food in my belly. Like literally I was making money daily, not in an illegal way, y'all. Get your mind out the gutter. But I was working with clients doing fitness, and like whatever money I made that day was the money that I had for that day. Like I didn't have anything stacked up or stored up. You know, like Del Taco was my favorite place to eat because I knew I could get dinner for $3. And you know, so I'm talking about discouragement when you're in those places. And so you're discouraged because you can't even function in terms of your everyday life. And then at the same time, you have a desire to still do those things that are on your heart in terms of bigger things to do. But in the process of that, I feel like what I did to find my hope and to not completely give up, right, was obviously my relationship with God is the thing that always pulls me out of my discouragement because I'm always looking to God, whether it's, you know, prayer. Um, I mean, mostly it's prayer, and I love reading I love studying the word. That's just something I just love to do. And so though that helped me, right, to not lose my mind, really. And then actually writing, the process of writing, I put a lot of the stuff that I was feeling, a lot of the stuff that I was experiencing into my lyrics, into my poetry. Um, and so those were very powerful outlets for me
Mm-hmm.
to help me get through the discouragement, because this is the thing that I've found about discouragement, and you can tell me if you found the same thing. It's like, just because we're working to come out of that kind of dark place, right? That place where everything kind of feels heavy and we're just fighting to have hope. Um, Sometimes that period of time lasts for a little while. Like, you know, even though I'm praying, even though, you know, I'm reading scripture, even though I'm doing some of the things that I know lift my spirits, listen
Mm-hmm.
to music, you know, go have a chocolate cupcake. We could talk more about that, but um but sometimes it doesn't, you don't get out of it quickly. Like sometimes you're in a season and that season is going to last for a while. So I feel like the trick is figuring out how to still, you know, put one foot forward one day at a time and just keep it simple, even though you don't know how long you're going to be in it. It feels like it's going on for eternity.
Yeah, very true. Very, very, very true. Dang, Melissa, and I was thinking something as you were talking, but you did just say still having a desire to pursue whatever your creative outlet is, because it's important to keep that, because it's still therapy. It's still whatever that hobby is. That
Hmm.
hobby is still so important to be able to escape from. The word is escape. We still need escapes,
Yeah.
and whatever brings joy brings you joy. And so how you know, the writing, getting that out, the outlet, and it's important to not let things fester too long. I try to make sure I'm getting stuff out as it comes. Really, I'm like, let me get that off and bounce back, so it doesn't just fester and just, you know, all this build up and until you explode like a bomb waiting to go off. And so just I'm like, nah. Whether it's running, I
Hmm.
feel so much better after I run. I noticed me just the subtleties of drinking water, things that our body needs as well, not so much as what we're mentally thinking all the time, but you, you know, it's important not to be weighed down with too much. It's so funny how I'm simplifying my life and how all of these things I felt I should have had going on. I'm like, the older I get, I'm like, that would have been a lot to do. Um, and there's a way to simplify it. And I like building teams, because when I have a team, I can get way more done than I could ever physically do. That way I can pass that ball to that teammate and let them, you know, pass them the lob, let them dunk too. So even applying that mentality to my hobby is key. Um, and just playing the games like that, really. I hate to use the word, I don't like the term game in that scenario, because it sounds, because I take everything serious. I really do. The older I get, I'm like, you know, time is precious. And it's very important. I really try to wake up like, let me chisel away at an idea, one of these ideas, just chisel away at it, at least so I can by this time of night, I can feel good. And that's a never ending reminder. And every day is not going to be the same, but really like we need to talk is just keeping our arts, because our natural gifts and talents, you may be knitting. It may be the poetry. It may be that, it's not music for everybody. And I understand that. And I love to see, I'm just an artsy head. I love the museum up the street. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm fascinated with just things. And so, and that's an outlet for me. And I don't need an entourage of people to go to me to these places, because I don't want to hear the stupidity of the lack of appreciation about this or that. So, I need to be here in this environment, I can't roll with a group of people like that, because it's too much diversity going on with me. And somebody's gonna be bored, and I don't want to hear how bored you are. So it's fair to just be, it's fair to nurture wherever you're growing into. That way you can, bounce back from that word discouragement. So I get energy from just a lot of different things. It's like, dang, okay, I can apply that energy into this music now, but I needed to see that sculpture. I needed to see that water, that nature, that whatever it may be, your children. It's a bunch. I'm inspired by a lot of different things. I'm learning to appreciate way more than ever complaining. I try to make sure that there's no complaining going on, no excuses, really, because somebody's doing worse, and that's enough.
Yeah. Well, that's something that can be done in terms of discouragement. And that's actually something I started doing with a good friend of mine last year when everything was going on 2020. We we agreed that we would call each other every day at like noon or 12:30, and we would share gratitudes with each other. And the things that we were, so obviously, I know you try to keep it positive all the time, but me, I'm very emotional. So, yes, I'm positive, but I also get real, I can get sad. Like, I get discouraged. I'm going to tell you, I get discouraged. And this is a fight. Okay. One of my mentors one time told me that my smile is me, that is my fight showing up, even when things are going on. They're like, why are you still smiling, with everything that's happening to you? And you just fighting through it, smile through it. But anyway, let me not get off topic. What I was saying about the gratitudes is some days I will call her, okay? And it was just not a good day. Okay. Sometimes you just don't have a good day. Just you're struggling and things are happening and there's just a lot of pressure. There's a lot of problems. And you know what I would do? I would take whatever that thing was that was bothering me and I would put a spin on it. So I'm trying to think of something that's not too personal. I can't think of anything right now, but basically, if there's something horrible happening, it's like you still give thanks for whatever that thing is and you spin it in some kind of way. You know what I mean? Like,
That's not easy to do, huh?
yeah, like, I don't know. Oh, I'll just think of something real stupid. Okay, so like, say for example, if I get okay, well, this isn't real stupid. This actually really happened. So I had a friend that was passing away of cancer this last summer. And so I got a call that she had taken a turn and that they weren't expecting her to make it through the night. And so we got in the car and we drove across like two states, okay? We're trying to make it there in time. So at one point in time, I got behind the wheel. When I got behind the wheel, my foot was a little heavy. So I was speeding and it was like 6 in the morning. I was also tired. Okay. I'm tired. I'm emotional. I'm trying to see my friend. And the cop pulls me over and I get this ticket. And the ticket's gonna be like $400. Oh my Lord. So obviously, if something like that happens, it's gonna affect your mood and your spirit, right? Well, for me, It will. So if I turn that into a gratitude, I could just, continue to be down about the fact that, oh my gosh, I got to pay $400. How am I going to pay this $400? This is probably going to be ding on my, I mean, you can just go down this, what is it? Like snowball. Oh,
Yeah.
this is going to ding my insurance. My insurance is going to go up. It's because sometimes people do that. They'll just go on a negative, like do, 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 and just keep going down into that hole.
Mhm.
Or you can be like, you know what? Thank you. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that that cop pulled me over because I was going so fast and that was an area where deer sometimes show up. And what if I was going fast and a deer would have hit my car? So thank you that I got stopped, and maybe at the point in time I got stopped, it was protecting me from something. I don't know what. I mean, you never know, but that's a way to turn something into a gratitude and try to lift your spirit immediately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's no need to repeat what you just said because there's no better way to say it. I concur fully.
You concur. So yeah, discouragement is a very real thing.
It's real, but we can bounce back. We recover. We don't dwell on it.
We don't dwell on it.
Like we maneuver, we distract. You know, apply that defeat to something else and chisel away at something great, whatever you come up with, because
Right.
that's going to be a different thing in every individual.
Mm-hmm.
Circumstances are real. Uh, Reality is real for everyone. Nobody's exempt from certain things. None of us are exempt from anything right now. But it's made me think different. And that's a blessing too,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times we get lax and complacent in our ways, and we stop growing and we stop pursuing things that we know could be way more beneficial to a lot more people outside of ourselves. And so, recovery too. I'm not going to end up. We don't have to close out on that term, discouraging.
You talking
I
about
don't.
recovery,
Yeah,
recovery.
we're gonna put this grade out into the universe.
Yeah, but as artists, the discouragement from rejection is very real. And especially when you think about, I mean, you think about our industry and the places where we live and how saturated it is with people, trying to do so many people trying to do some of the same things.
Mm-hmm.
And just by sheer number, everybody's not going to be able to get picked to do it.
Not even that. Sometimes rejection is good for you. Uh, um,
Hmm.
we think of rejection only on our end of the perspective, but maybe that company that you wanted to be with so bad knew that they were going downhill and didn't even want to drag you along. Like, some things were a blessing. That's what just what we left off saying about the last scenario. That applies now too. It's just like, no, we were rescued.
Hmm.
It wasn't supposed. It did unfold because nothing occurs to God. He's not surprised by anything that happens. So he has. When we call it discouraging, he's probably using the word rescue, saved. With our terms that we dwell on, and we make it. Our emotions are overcome with the scenario, the terms that we use. But
Hmm.
just because we use those terms don't mean that he's using them. So that's another reminder too. A quick bounce back. I didn't get that deal. And whatever, the Lord knows what that deal even was. We just understand the term deal. And we're
Hmm.
defeated because the deal didn't go. No, sometimes it's a blessing because it didn't work out. That quick recovery, I'm gonna still focus on recovery because I really don't like. I'm hard on these terms. I'm hard on terms, and and when I talk to people, ask anybody that's capable of being on the phone with me for any period of time. I'm not gonna let you use too many defeated terms before I'm gonna tell you either change it up or I gotta go. And
Hmm.
it's not that I don't want to hear your problem, but what's the solution going to be? Don't tell me and it's but without being selfish in a way of not receiving them needing to get it out of their system.
Hmm.
But when it's consistent, you know what I'm talking about. Not those one-offs.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves that. I'm talking about it's always the same with those people. It's every conversation. It's like, oh Lord, wasn't there? Without,
So, but Seeds, what do you mean? You
uh,
keep saying quick recovery. What do you expand on that? What are you talking about?
I mean, mentally, just because you just said it so perfectly when you said flip it. You used the term flip. All I'm saying is flip it right there and right then, and realize that you said something, you gave a scenario about a deer crossing the road. You weren't supposed to be going during that time that the deer were going to be crossing. This is the same thing, just call it something different. Period. And that quick recovery is the flip. So you're saying flip and I'm saying recovery. It's the same thing.
Okay, so the flip and the recovery, to me, that basically equates to like we have a choice. In an
Correct.
instant, we can have a choice as to how we're going to respond, what we're going to believe, what we're going to think, and how we're going to behave
Or not
or
respond.
not. Right. But I'll say, I've heard that said to me before, where someone was like, I think it was specifically about forgiveness, but they were saying how, oh, forgiveness, I mean, it's just as simple as a choice. And I was like,
No.
at the time, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, no, it's not, because I can't just choose to forgive somebody who did X, Y, and Z. I mean, they did a lot. Okay. And it was, I mean, I think some years went by after having that person say that to me, where I finally, like, it clicked. And it was like, no, it really is just a choice. It's a choice for me to let that stuff go. you
You know
know?
what? And here's my take on that, Melissa, because I've never agreed with the cliche forgive and forget. Because it's almost impossible to forget some of those things, that you have a problem with forgiving people about. And those things are embedded. I use sometimes the scenario, it's hard to erase a scratch because it's embedded. It has an indentation now. And so you
Mhm.
can't, you have to fill it with something. But it's hard to forgive and forget. But we can forgive and move on.
Yeah.
Forgiving doesn't mean like, okay, next week let's it might not ever be the same again, but that doesn't mean that it's not forgiving.
Mhm.
But I'm not
Mhm.
going to force the what was once uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It's called insanity when it's repeated.
And discouragement could be considered that too, because if you just keep repeating, it's, choosing to stay in that place, right? Then I guess that is something like insanity, because at some point you're going to have to shift to get out of the situation you're in, whether it's something that's happening just in your mind alone, you know what I mean, like it's something just that's going on with you internally, or whether or not it's something that is being imposed on you by somebody else, because sometimes there's things that other people are doing that's affecting us and bringing us discouragement. But again, we still have choices to remove ourselves,
Right.
right? Or do something to help change that situation.
Yep. Bow out
So,
gracefully.
mm-hmm.
These are decisions, and so like you just said, after a while, it's hard for me to hear certain things. I'm like, no, what was your other options? So are we going to outweigh options, or are you just wanting to? You need this attention and this sympathy. So like, what's next?
Mm.
What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And it's always a blessing to be able to wake up and to say, what's next? What else is possible then?
Yeah.
Since that, since I'm gonna feel discouraged about that one thing, there's so many other things that he gives us that's around us, and we just want to focus on what we want to focus on. That's an issue.
Mm.
That ain't it's that's it. And these are internal battles, MS.
Right.
We all
They
have
are.
we all have a lot of times something can be going on in your head with another individual and they don't even know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then vice versa. It's like, geez, and maybe you'll find out and maybe you won't, but sometimes it's not your issue.
Right. Right.
Everything that happens is not our concern.
Mm-hmm. I like that. What you choose to focus on. That right there that pretty
Right?
much captures
Right
discouragement,
now.
because what are you you know what I mean, like when we're discouraged, it's like, what are we focusing on? If we're focusing on the right thing,
Mhm.
then we can get out of that place of discouragement, we can move into hope, we can, we can move into confidence. But it boils down to, what are we focusing on? And
Mhm.
sometimes we not sometimes we need to always focus on what's true, and what's true is not necessarily synonymous with what is reality, because sometimes the reality that we're experiencing is not necessarily the truth. And so let me explain that a little bit more. So the reality may be that I just got rejected for a part. Okay, that's the reality. But the truth is that I'm still a very talented individual with gifts that have been given to me, right? And so I can still move forward in the truth of knowing that I'm gifted, I'm talented. While I may have been rejected for that part, there may be another part that's there for me. I just need to find that part, or wait for the opportunity to, present itself, or until I meet it. So
Or create
reality and
one.
truth are not the same, or create one. Yeah. But
Right.
but my point is, like, focusing on what's true versus what is the reality, right?
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
well, I'm thinking that cuz next week we're supposed to talk about discouragement. I want to see if we can get some people to send us some questions to answer related to discouragement.
Or even if we can, if there were questions prior to this episode that we need to,
Yeah, so
you know,
we'll address those and talk about those in our follow-up conversation next week. So if anybody's listening and wants to send us a question or a thought, or you know, holla at us. If it's
some
related to
encouragement.
discouragement, you guys can hit us up on Instagram through our DM. And on Instagram, our IG handle is number 4theARTISTS with an S at the end, y'all. Can you guys can also hit us up, I think, on our website, creativeendprojects.org. There's probably a place for y'all to holler at us, or just go to info@creativeendprojects.org. So there's ways to reach us. Even in the YouTube, we put these up on YouTube. Y'all can put in the comments a little something, something. Don't be trying to hate on us. I mean, you can if you want to,
Oh,
but we'll just throw it right back. No, I'm just kidding. We will not, but we will choose to focus on the good in you if you throw us some hate. How about that?
we don't have the topics to even introduce that. So if you came in left like that, then our topics are not about anything.
They're not. We didn't even go that deep. We just trying to have a conversation about the fact that we get discouraged as artists, and what are we going through, and how can we recover. I like that. See, it's quick recovery. Boom. All right. Well, what else you got to say before we wrap it up today? Anything?
Don't be discouraged too long. It's going to happen. It's possible. Nobody's exempt.
Mm-hmm.
But when it does, and when after, at least it might not be noticeable right away, of course. A lot of times we reflect on it and then see, but even when it's not immediate, and if there is a the down stuff, just find your outlet, your hobby, your voice, or whatever that is, your art, whatever your release needs to be. Your escape is another term I like to focus on. Whatever your escape is, escape to there, and then keep that prayer at the forefront.
Right. Now, don't be doing no escapes that will be damaging or detrimental to you, though. Like,
Oh yeah,
do
no,
think, because no, because when you say that, some people do, like, they'll escape in a different kind of way. Sees, for real. We're not
well,
talking
okay.
about that.
Well, I don't think anybody was getting that vibe from.
Well, I just want to be clear that I just want to be clear, because this is being recorded. So we ain't talking about escaping in no
Yeah,
kind of
no, yeah,
illegal, like, do
not from
yourself harm
incarceration.
any kind of way.
Yeah,
Okay. Y'all need to get some
incarcerated.
books, read a book, listen to some good music, hang out with some good friends, I guess with your mask on. Anyway, we're not going there. Oh, but you know what? That just made me think of real quick before we get off. You know what I do, Seats? In my wallet, I keep a postcard. Okay. And on that postcard, I write down a combination of affirmations and things for that I see for myself. And when I'm having a moment, or if I just need to be like need to remind myself, because we need reminders, I will take that postcard out of my wallet and I will actually read it and say those things out loud.
Mhm.
So that's something that people can do too. It's like, write down the things that because that also gives hope. You may not have it, but if you're reminding yourself of the fact that you see it and that's something that you want for yourself,
Mhm.
right? Then
Put
that's
a
something
little
that
bit.
can
Yeah,
lift your spirits.
correct.
So, all right. Well, you look like you're in thought.
I have to use the restroom.
All right, y'all. Well, we're going to wrap it up. You have been listening to For the Artists. I'm Melissa Sharee. I'm here with Eric Seats.
Yes.
We will be back next Thursday. So, again, if y'all have anything on discouragement, throw it at us over the course of the week, and we will touch on it when we get back together next week. All right,
Thank you.
y'all. Peace, love, and all that.
Yep. Peace.
Peace.